So, what is integration? I'll start with a little introduction. My name is Andy. I've been a facilitator for over 5 years, done well over 100 retreats in that time. And the focus of my work has always been on integration. In retreats, in healing retreats, you are going to have many different sessions and spaces and experiences that have an element of inner journeying, self-exploration, perhaps expanded states. And the most important thing is not those sessions in and of themselves, though they are an important part of the retreat. The most important part is that these experiences can be integrated. And that is the topic I've spent the most time working on a personal level and on my job on a retreat level, and the most time I've spent reflecting on, thinking about, studying, and I still don't have a definitive map, although I do have some interesting insights and points of view that inform how I work, and I would like to talk about that a little bit to give you a sense of it. So when we're asking what is integration, we could mean that in two different ways. The first way would be, what is the process of integration in a psychological sense, in a metaphysical sense, in the sense of how does a person's process go from an experience, a realization, a release, to a genuine, long-lasting shift and transformation in their life. And the other way that we can mean that question is, what is an integration session in a retreat? So let's start by talking about the nature of integration, because interestingly, there's not that much to say about this. Or what we are saying ends up being a little bit in that kind of vague spiritual, metaphysical, philosophical realm, insights, comprehensions, understandings that are interesting, beneficial, can certainly help. But in the end, the process is just happening. Integration is just happening. The way I like to think of it is that the parts of this process that are guided by something deeper, something higher, however you want to think about it, are really out of our control. They don't need to be worried about. We can trust that my healing process is on the way, is on the path, And to kind of like figure out or create a map or a theory of how that all works, I don't know how useful that is, because in the end, you're only going to figure it out for yourself, right? Because everyone's individual journey is unique. And in the depths, we're the same. There's many similarities, of course, and there's a huge part of integration that is related to community as well. But the specific details that take the process from surface level to genuine transformation are going to be so particular for each person that it's impossible to come up with an overarching theory about how it works. But you can certainly have some perspectives, some generalizations, some useful, skillful similarities. So all that to say that the process of integration is something that we trust in more than we can actively do something about. That doesn't mean we can't do anything or that we shouldn't do anything. It just means that the first place from where we move is one of trust rather than of applying a theory or a method to a given person or situation. So what is an integration session then? Well, I wanted to talk about what are for me the three most important pillars that underline what an integration session is in a retreat. Because from there, the integration can take basically any form, be that, the kind of classic format of a space to listen and express and explore the themes that are coming up. Or if it's more with the body, it's more with the movement, it's more dynamic. The point is that it serves what's happening in the retreat in that moment. It's kind of like a response to what's happened so far. So in these sessions of self-exploration, of inner journeys, expanded states, that's like where things happen and move. And then the integration is a response to that, and also a setup for the next series of sessions, whatever they may be. So it's like this call and response throughout the retreat. So in that sense, there is no set integration. I've seen that before many years ago where, we kind of say, okay, the first day, the integration is like this, the second day, it's like this, the third day, it's like that. And it's not bad because it's a model that can be applied, but it's infinitely better when it's completely open, you know. The second day, we need more with the body and movement, and the group's a little bit looser and more connected, so it's easier to get into that. Okay, that all makes sense, but you never know that on the first day of the retreat, getting into that energy is the best thing. So we remain open to see what integration is. And again, this comes back to trust. To trust that we don't know what's best, but we can see, we can feel, we can intuit what is the most appropriate, what is the most supportive way in any given moment in a retreat. As facilitators, as people also on this healing journey who are now in a position where we're offering and supporting other people, as was done for us all those years ago. The first one is to trust in the space. In a retreat, the space, the house, the venue, whatever it may be, does take on an important role as a container, as a holding, and that's a whole other topic we can talk about. But what I mean here is to trust in the intangible space. You could call it the field, you could call it the collective fabric that weaves us all together. You can think of it however you want. The point is that there is a different quality in a group of people sitting around at the kitchen having breakfast, just chatting about themselves, the retreat so far, even if they're talking about what happened in a certain session and they're sharing something quite, open. Certainly that's going to be important. And it's absolutely fundamental that people have that downtime and those more casual and interpersonal moments in the retreat. It's absolutely fundamental to the process. However, there is something different in that energy and in the energy of an integration session. And it's something about, again, the space, not the literal physical space, but again, it's like the connection between the group. And the most important thing to understand about this is that it does not come from the facilitators. The facilitators are not even channels for that. To say that they're holding the space is fair enough, and I even say that myself sometimes, but I want to go one further and say that the facilitators, more than anything, are the witnesses to that space, more than they are directing it, guiding it, channeling it, and certainly not creating it. Of course, let's take a moment of recognition to those people who have put the time and energy and love into creating sacred spaces for us to go to, the facilitators who have held us, and the self-recognition for the times when we have done that, put the time and the energy and the work into making the retreat happen. In that sense, we created it. The retreat, the event, but the integration space has not been created by the facilitators. It has emerged out of this collective space shared between the group. I've often said how something magical happens when a group of human beings come together. And this is where that collective element meets something a little bit deeper, something more like intentionality. Because there's a group of people together in the kitchen having a chat, right? But it goes much, much deeper in an integration space. And that is that each person who's there, whether they realize it or not, which is a funny way of talking about intention, but whether they realize it or not, is bringing something really fundamental to that space. It is out of that space that everything flows and everything emerges for a session of integration. The role of the facilitator, then, I refer to them as a witness, but is to listen, to receive, to really feel into what is happening. And so if we start with this first pillar of trusting the space, meaning that we trust what is emerging out of it. We trust that, okay, there's an energy in the retreat right now. Maybe it's a very fun energy. Maybe it's very open. Maybe it's a more challenging energy because we're human beings with all of this healing process going on, right? You know, sometimes things are challenging, but we trust what is there. That why should this be different to how it is right now? Do I know better than life, than this deeper quality, this deeper essence in me, in you, in all of us, and that is coming together to form this space? I should take some time to reflect if I ever think I know better than that. And that leads us nicely into the second pillar, which is to trust in yourself as the facilitator, as the one holding the space, because I may not know better than the space, but I can listen to it. I can listen to myself as part of the space. So as I mentioned, the facilitators are creating, they're not channeling the space, but they are working with it, of course, because if the facilitator opens an integration in a particular way, and then they suggest a certain exercise or dynamic, they follow a certain line of questioning or inquiry for what a participant is sharing. Obviously, the role of the facilitator is very important, but everything a facilitator is doing is coming from a deep listening and sensitivity to what is needed, what is being asked of. And, one form of this is intuition, but it's not only intuition. Intuition is one way that this can manifest, right? That there is an image or a vision or a listening happening inside the facilitator of where to go in response to what's happening, and then to present it, to suggest it, to ask it. It's also spontaneity. It's this call and response of what's happening in my inner world, trusting that because I trust the space as well. And I trust my discernment between what could be my intuition or what could be just my mind. And that's a whole other topic. But the short version is that if I trust myself, I can discern the difference. If in a given moment there is indeed a difference, which there may not be. And so in trusting myself, I can completely connect with and flow with the space. And I've put them in this order for a reason. I trust the space first, because that includes trusting myself because I'm part of the space. But then I trust myself in a more specific sense to then, and I don't want to use the word guide, we could say direct the space, or we could say work with the space, right? So I trust in the collective, and then I trust in myself. So this third pillar to integration is to trust in the people, in the participants. Of course, they are also part of the space. So I trust in the space, I'm going to trust in them as well. But more specifically, it's that we trust in what they're bringing. And this is where it's really important to distinguish the difference between trusting in someone and believing them. Because certainly we're not believing a person's limitations that they bring to a retreat, right? Like the self-beliefs that are wrapped up in doubt and unworthiness and all the rest of those things. No, the voice inside a person that says, I'm not good enough, I'm not able to do this, etc., etc. And if they present that in some way in the retreat, either verbally, directly, or maybe in a body language, no, I don't believe that that is the truth about who they are, even if they believe in it. But I trust them in the fact that they are bringing it. And the two things are completely different. What we're saying is that I don't need to give you something or do something for you. That if I really, really trust you, my role relaxes. And from this relaxed place, I can really respond and engage with what's happening from this place of intuition, of spontaneity, and to trust in a person's capacity and in a person's rhythm to realize what they need to. First of all, I don't know what's best for someone else. But if I did in one moment because I have an insight, this person's presenting this thing and they're on this theme, and I'm kind of like feeling into where this is coming from and what it means. Okay, but what do I do then? Do I tell them in a kind of roundabout way because I'm just talking about this theme and or something? No. Again, really, really important to trust them. And the way that that often presents itself is just by asking them, if they want to explore this, if they want to go deeper, if they want to do an exercise, you know, can I ask you a question? And if the person says no, then that's it, That doesn't happen so often, but even though it doesn't happen very often, I can maybe think of a handful of times where someone says no. You still always ask, right? I'm asking because I trust them to go through what they're going through. The relationship that this creates between the facilitator and the participant is, again, so much more relaxed, so much more responsive rather than imposing. So from this place, trusting in the space, trusting in myself, in how I then respond to the space, and then trusting you in your rhythm, in what you bring, in your ability to receive from the space, integration becomes an integration session, becomes a flow, a listening, a feeling, an exploration, a curiosity led by trust more than the facilitator. And in that integration session, the integration process can be seen and felt more clearly. And hopefully, over time, through experiencing those spaces more and more, we can become conscious of the fact that it wasn't the facilitator, it wasn't the sessions, it was this deeper quality that is always in me and always with me,